on the front line. There's no place to go. Fighting.
This is John McCutcheon, singer, songwriter, folk artist, dulcimer player, plays just about anything straight out of Smoke Rise.
Straight. I need that. I need that on a T-shirt.
It-
Straight out of Smoke Rise. There you go.
So this is your 41st album in 45 years. That's quite an output.
Yeah. I think I'm. It's because I was raised before Ritalin. Well,
How do you do that? How do you have such an output like that? Because some people take years to put together a project from the moment they start writing and getting the melodies down and everything to the final output. What is your inspiration for working so quickly and getting this amount of work out?
Well, in this particular case, it was probably the first time in my life that I had no impediments at all to writing. I came back from a tour of Australia in mid-March, and it was absolutely clear that I needed to self-quarantine to protect my family and loved ones. I'd been in Australia for 3 weeks and then on a 24-hour plane ride. So we have a little cabin up around Ellijay, and I went up there with my dog. And you know, when I write at home, it's time to come in and eat supper, or it's time to fix supper, or it's time to mow the lawn, or, you know, I have to do an interview or whatever, and the whole world shut down. I had no commitments at all, except my agent calling me up and saying, well, another weekend just got canceled. So I wanted to use my time creatively, and once I just fell into that groove, it was part of what I did in the course of the day. And I was up there for about 3 weeks and ended up quite unexpectedly with an album.
Yeah, Ellijay is one of these places because I would go up there for the apple picking festivals.
Right.
Like it's beautiful in the fall time. And Ellijay is northwest Georgia up I-75, and folks coming down I-75. That's a beautiful place. So I can imagine that was very inspirational to not just the current events of the day that were helping to write these lyrics, but just being in that atmosphere.
Oh, and yeah, and some of the songs on this album were inspired by events that were very much about me sitting on the porch there one night as the sun was going down in that kind of violet hour that is between sundown and dark. I saw all the little lights coming on in the houses in the towns below where my lofty perch was, and it inspired the song Vespers. I saw a squirrel raiding my my bird feeder one day, and I thought, you know, there was a time in my life this would have really pissed me off.
I know the feeling.
So I wrote the song Control based on that. Other things came from conversations I had with old friends, and they would say something or tell me a story, or, you know, I would think about something that afterwards, and everything was fodder. Everything was grist for the mill, and all kinds of stuff came out.
Yeah, you could tell just from that whole listing of songs. It's about 18 tracks on this new album, Cabin
It's
Fever.
a pretty generous album.
Yeah, they're really like very to the point. You could just tell that they had been inspired by just like that day, just like Frontline is your opening track. And
Right.
what came to you with that? Was there an actual news report, just simply generally reading and seeing
Well,
how nurses and doctors were working?
it's interesting. In what was it, 4 years ago, I had a cancer scare,
Hmm.
and I realized that all of the language in our healthcare system is warlike. You know, the battle against cancer, and here all of a sudden it was frontline, and so the chorus just, you know, you realize, and I have two brothers who were career Marines, and in talking to them about their experiences, you know, when you're in the midst of things, there's no time to be scared. you just, you just stand your ground. And so that kind of lingo came forward. And of course, everyone was talking about the front lines, but it's a group of people that we often don't think about until we or someone in our family gets sick, and you realize the tremendous skill and sacrifice that goes on, especially these people who, when they were doing their job, were not only putting themselves at risk, but you realize that they were sacrificing their time with their families. And they couldn't go home and be with their kids. And every day they went in, it meant another 2 weeks that they couldn't be with their kids or their spouse or whomever. So I'm always looking for those people that don't have an opportunity to get feted, and write songs for them. This time, the whole world was realizing how important they were, and I just thought they deserved a song.
Absolutely. I mean, what heroes. And just as this is going on, because there's no end point to this, we just, with most news stories, I've been in news for many years now, and there's an end date, there's a campaign going on, there's an end date. With this, we don't know. So I think that's really beautiful to give a tribute to people who are really just giving it their all, and they're under so much tremendous stress. It's
well, and the interesting thing about what's going on, especially in Georgia right now, and I have no idea when this might get out to the public, but when we decide that we're just tired of wearing masks and tired of not going to the beach and tired of not eating in a restaurant or going to our favorite pub, all those people that we have said, yes, they're heroes, we're creating more work for them.
Absolutely.
And so it's a lot. There's a song I didn't put on there that was a really late entry called Killed by Stupid, which is basically saying, I won't be killed by stupid. Yeah. I'm not going to go to the gym and get a tattoo and then go bowl a game, which was the first thing in Georgia that opened up. Like, that's the backbone of our economy here. It's, we're either, you would think those would be the last places.
You must feel like you can't keep up with this. I mean, here you put this release out, you can almost do one almost every month, it seems like. News is really going faster than I've ever seen it go these days.
It is. And, I keep getting asked, when are you going to write your Trump songs? And there's really a lot of low-hanging fruit. But it's not really funny anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm of an age now where what I'm most interested in is writing about the stuff that's hard, writing about those things where we might find some common ground. I mean, granted, if something really stupid comes along like alternative facts, if we agree to that, then every parent is really in trouble when they're talking to their kids. But having something that captures a moment, because my Cuban father-in-law once told me, he said, the interesting thing that happens in a totalitarian, whether it be a fascist or communist regime, is that everything has to serve the state. Everything is politicized. Art is politicized. Yeah. Newspapers are politicized, and everything, and that's what happens. Your children become politicized. And I realized that that's kind of what's happened. Everything, the pandemic should not be politicized. It's a public health situation. And now you've got people, signaling whether they're Democrat or Republican by whether they wear a mask or not, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm looking for is those places where everybody can say, no matter how much we disagree on everything else, yeah, we got to give props to the healthcare workers and the postal service and the people who are bagging our groceries, for heaven's sake. These are people that are keeping the wheels running. Or as the second cut on the album, I mean, everybody was just stopped dead in their tracks when they heard that John Prine died.
Yes, I was going to ask you, so John Prine, how well did you know John Prine in your years?
I knew him okay. We had done several shows together, and the second verse in that And that song talks about a night at the Cambridge Folk Festival in England, where John and I and a bunch of performers had met in the hotel bar, and when the when the house band went on break, we just took over the stage, and the house band was never allowed to come up again. We just took over everything and shut the whole joint down. And every time I saw John or talked to him on the telephone, he'd always bring that up about what a great night that was, which also happened to be Stevie Goodman's birthday. And John and Stevie were really close. And so it was a emotionally charged night. And it was one of those nights that you just don't forget. And I'm glad I had an opportunity to sort of relive it via the song. But John was a genius.
Yeah.
He was, any damn fool can be complicated. His simplicity, his directness, his kind of sideways humor, and his heart just opened people up in ways that, you know, has a better line than "there's a hole in daddy's arm where all the money goes"?
Yeah.
Ever been written. It's just so, it says, or later in the same song, "my kids are running around in someone else's clothes." I mean, it says so much with so little. So John touched people in ways that, you know, maybe he didn't even know.
So simple, but yet so deep. And it seemed to me like just after his passing, that all the analysis, the accolades, everything just came out all at once. It was
Yeah. So it was another one of those moments where we could stop and say, yeah, we're all feeling this right now. We're all feeling this right now. And that's the interesting thing for me as a writer.